You become part of the horse practically, and that's the feeling. You're one with the animal. That's the fun. That's the joy.
You know those rides where everything just clicks? No overthinking, no micromanaging, just flow. That's not magic. And according to 5-time Olympian Anne Kursinski, it's not talent either. It's feel. And feel is something you can learn. In this episode of Dear Horse World, Anne unpacks the real work behind effortless riding. She shares stories from her early days, including being told she'd never make it, and how that shaped her into the fiercely determined, quietly powerful mentor she is today. We explore what separates good riders from great ones, how to actually use your leg aid effectively, and why your presence in the barn matters just as much as your position in the ring. This one's part technical deep dive, part mindset shift, and it just might change the way you show up in the saddle tomorrow.
Dear Horse World, it's Anne Kursinski.
Anne, welcome to the Dear Horse World podcast.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
So something that a few riders who know you very well, some of which who've ridden with you, worked with you, everyone told me, Noelle, Anne will be early. And sure enough, you're early.
Yeah, I guess that's my style.
Well, I'm thinking what I want to ask you to kick things off is there are lots of aspects of horses and the sport of show jumping that you can't control. But there are a lot of things that you can. Punctuality is one of them. Now that you're in a place of mentorship, and I'm like really excited to dive into that with you, what are some things that you remind riders that they have a capacity to control in their sort of day-to-day, like punctuality, for example?
Yeah, well, punctuality is for sure one to get started, to set yourself up for success, that you're not a little late and then rushing and disorganized, and not only for yourself, but your horse or your whole day. Mm-hmm. Maybe some people do it like that, but that definitely didn't work for me. That, again, controlling, I would say, aware of how you conduct yourself also, being aware whether you're riding or teaching or whatever it is you're doing, that trying to control yourself or being able to control how you, even with the horse, that it's when you're working with the horse or when I'm working with the horse, it's how to get the most out of him, to be the best out of him, not, oh, you're so dumb or you're not getting it or whatever. But I don't know. I guess the feeling of, again, how I can control myself in a sense to get again, no temper, no anger, or anything like that. That part of that, I don't know if that makes sense.
Well, holding yourself accountable for the emotions you bring to like every moment.
Right.
That's what that makes me think of.
Yeah.
Is not just reactively emoting, being respectful of those around you. That's what, as you're speaking and as I've talked to people who work with you, they have said, working and riding with Anne is like, she is on time, respectful, courteous, kind, like all the time. It's something that you embody. It's not like an act. You're like, right. I think you're really putting your best foot forward at all times. And then across the board, everyone said, and this was like Tick Maynard, Will Coleman, people who really respect you. So shout out to Will and Tick.
Thank you.
They said that it comes out in the horses. It comes out in your team, in the people that you work with, the people that you have in the barn. And obviously in the people, in the riders that have mentored with you. So it obviously makes an impression.
Well, thank you. And yet sometimes maybe I can, listening to all of that, which is great to hear. And I try to be like that. But another thing of again, trying to be your best.
Yeah.
I have been an Olympian. Or I am an Olympian.
5-time Olympian.
Yes, and so a feeling that I think I've had ever since a little kid is to be your best, whatever you're doing. So I think sometimes when I push riders or even my team, I believe they can be better even than they believe sometimes. So being respectful and kind, whatever you said, but sometimes also a little bit pushing because of thinking, I believe you can be better. And it's fun sometimes even in clinics and things, people that I don't know so as well as say Tick and Will.
Yeah.
And you kind of push them out of their comfort zones a little bit. And sometimes it's a little tough. And yet then it's like, oh my God, that was amazing. I have people come, I'll never forget the clinic I took with you or the lessons and sometimes it's like, oh, maybe I'm being a little strong.
Yeah.
But because I believe they can do more. And I'm the first one, on the other hand, with some, riders and horses, they're not really up to it. So you have to, there's a reading, there's a feeling in all of it. When to, okay, I think that's good enough. And then others, come on. I think you can do this. I believe you can do what I did or do this out of a passion and a love for it. And to say, and same with the horses, doing your basic dressage and then this young horse and they're learning more. Yeah, I think you can do a little more today or tomorrow or whatever. I don't know. That maybe got off of what you were talking about.
No, I think that's great. Do you think that is tangible to the people that you teach and to the people that you work with? Like that belief? And I think, do you think pushiness? So if you're pushing someone to be better, but the energy behind it is like positive versus pushing someone to be better. So maybe the potential energy behind it is maybe a little bit more forceful.
Right.
Do you think that the rider feels that? We don't even have to go down the route of the horse, like just people to people. Because we were talking about that before we sat down in the studio. We were talking about people to people feel.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I love that you brought that up because people to people feel is as important as people to horse feel. Absolutely,
for sure. Yeah, and I think for sure they can feel it. We can feel it. I think a lot of horsemen, horsewomen, dealing with the animals, there is more feeling. I believe, or at least from my perspective, there's more feeling because of all the work with the horses and the animals, and so. Energy or whatever. Yeah, I do believe some of that's tangible, a feeling. And yes, trying to keep it from a positive. Again, you can do it. I'll even say sometimes I'm being strong with you. Sometimes because of the horse. I need you to be a little stronger to give the horse confidence or something. But I'm being strong with you because I believe you can do this more than you believe you can do it, in a sense.
Yeah.
To make it a positive thing. I grew up with a lot of teaching that some of it wasn't so positive. I mean, I was mostly told a lot that I would never make it. You're not good enough. I mean, I was told that a lot.
Wow.
And from that of the fight to say, no, I'm going to prove to you, I will make it. I will make it. But it was a lot of it was from way back then. It's a long time ago now, but was more. You'll never make it. You'll never make it. You'll never be good enough. But for me, that made me fight more, and maybe, especially that was Jimmy Williams, especially growing up. He sort of knew that about. He didn't teach everybody like that either.
Really?
And to me also, each horse is a little different. Some are hotter, some are colder, some are more sensitive. Same with humans, people same thing. So anyway, so I think I tend to be more positive in a sense, or I try to come across positively to get the good out,
Okay, I want to dive into what you just shared about the early years of your riding.
Yeah.
So do you believe that was an intentional approach with your career, that you were told that you wouldn't that you wouldn't make it, and and the goal was to make you hungrier for it?
I think that I do believe that was I think that probably was his way.
Yeah.
And I think probably he was taught that way as well,
Mm.
in a sense. But to make you, and were you strong enough or gritty enough to,
Yeah.
yeah. And again, it was sort of more, okay, I'm going to prove it to you. I can do this. I'm going to
Do you think it was
get.
like an initiation?
Could have been
Like, will this person wither under my force, or will they? And I'm not saying that it's right.
Right.
But the psychology behind teaching, I mean, even in my lifetime, when I look at the conversations that exist, the systems that exist, the protection that exists for students now was not the case for even when I was in equitation juniors.
Yeah.
So, I mean, take it even more generations back, even to the youth, like the youth time of your mentors, right? There was no sports psychology. People weren't thinking, I wonder how this person learns.
Right.
Can you bring me back to an impressionable moment, either a positive experience or a negative experience, that feels like one of those pivotal, like a line in the sand for you?
Right. I don't know about one moment, but again, riding, I guess some of that riding, some tough horses, some, whether they were horses that stopped at the time or were whatever, that you get them to be confident and get them around, be strong enough, tough enough to make them jump around and give them confidence, that kind of thing. I mean, a lot of that kind of growing up, riding difficult horses and things, and getting them to be better. Wow, look what I did, and look what I can do, and even that is interesting. Even with children riding and things, and I think especially girls, the feeling when you're really little or young, I don't know, what horses can do for you. So, like your little girl, but you can control this great big horse. You can ride it. You can, and then they are also your best friend and everything. This is before the horse is stopping, right? This is, being a little girl learning to ride, and part for the self-confidence and all of that of a young girl to be able to say, wow, I can control that horse. I just walk, trot, canter, jump little jumps. I'm not talking about anything more than that. But
that's amazing.
But
for a little girl.
The self-confidence and the self-esteem to come out of that, to say, and yet then the horse is also your best friend. And
it's very special.
Yes, exactly, that relationship with that. Then to go on to, like I say, then being a young professional or a older junior and riding some difficult green horses or difficult horses. And then again I got this horse to do this, or later win a Grand Prix or something. But that feeling of, oh man, I got him to do it. That feeling of confidence, and yet it's also working with the horse and that. But I guess growing up, that when you're talking about a moment of some of that, that in the end was positive. Might have been difficult getting there, but then it ended up being a very positive thing. Experience.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit. So Jimmy was someone who told you that you weren't going to make it.
Yes.
How does that play? So I'm imagining, I'm closing my eyes and I'm picturing young Anne. You're working with maybe some difficult horses, and you're working, and your mentor or your trainer is telling you that you're not going to make it. How that feels almost like I'm picturing almost a sense of overwhelm, that you're feeling resistance from both sides. And I guarantee you there are people listening to this podcast right now that are in that feeling where they're having challenges with their horses, their feeling, or their particular horse. And maybe they don't have a lot of positivity when they come to the barn, or maybe they don't have a lot of positivity with the trainer that they're working with. What is one piece of advice, or what is something that kept you afloat in those moments, to find in that sea of resistance a sense of self-belief?
Yeah, I don't know. It was just an internal that I'll figure this out. I can do this. I don't know. It was an internal something like that. And again, and yet watching Jimmy train lots of horses and people and difficult horses, and he was a cowboy originally, and so some of his things were a little strong that I might not do today, things like that. But how he could, and watching other people influence horses and get horses to do things, and so the top dressage rider, watching how do they teach him the horse to do piaffe and passage and changes, or how do you get a racehorse to run faster, or how do you get the Western horse to go slide and spin and do different things. I don't know. I was always curious, I think, curious and fascinated. And there was something that, I guess, an internal of, even when it was down, when it was difficult, of, I'm going to figure this out. I don't know. It was fascinating and exciting. And even though it was tough, it was hard sometimes, very, very hard. But I don't know, a curiosity, that I think I can do this, and maybe in the love of the horse, all of that at the same time, even though they were tough, in a funny way. We can do this. We're gonna do this. I don't know.
It makes me think of, as you're speaking, I think, well, Anne never let anyone affect her love of horses, I would say, and listening to you. Yeah. And what you're talking about internally, what I call that is self-worth. So regardless, if you have, I think it's something that should be deeply protected in each person, is your self-worth. And if you don't have a lot of it, which this is something that all people in the horse world and all people in the world navigate, is to work on it, because it is something that is internal, right? No one can tell you, no one can, if you protect it, no one can actually, infiltrate your self-worth. Right. And so I think I've never thought of this before, but if you have a healthy level of self-worth or self-value, valuing yourself, and then an insatiable level of curiosity, which you clearly did and do, that means that you can actually be resilient. Yeah. Because it sounds like you had to be resilient.
Yeah, I guess I did. Through all of it, I think it was resilient, and and how can I get, also with it, how can I get better? How can I learn this to be a better rider, to be a better horsewoman, to maybe one day get to the Olympics or something? All these things going on. So I think, you're right. I wouldn't have said so much the resilience part of it, but yes, always this sort of, how can I be better? What can I learn from this? Maybe not then so much, what can I learn from, but that's what I was doing. Yes, what am I learning from it to go on and be like another top professional? Get, Mary Chapeau go to the Olympics, or Kathy Kuzner go to the Olympics. Let me see, looking at the picture books, little black and white picture books when I was little, people jumping at Aachen and the Olympics and Rome and those things. And how do I get there?
I know this is going to be a really hard question. If you're going to stand on one person, or you're going to stand on a platform and say, okay, there was one person that I credit as a mentor that made the biggest impression. And sometimes they're not the ones you work with the longest, but the one that made the deepest, like when people ask famous intellectuals, who was the teacher that gave you the most impression, or a famous athlete, they'll say, which coach? Sometimes they're not the ones that were the longest, but sometimes they made the biggest impression. Who is that for you?
Oh, wow. That's very difficult, because
impressions come in so many different shapes and sizes, right? Like, someone can be your direct mentor for 10 years. Like, I think I'm talking to Eric Neve last night. Him and Carl have worked together for 14 years. Yeah, right. So Eric has made a tremendous impression on Carl. But sometimes the biggest impressions don't necessarily come in like longevity or
Right.
length. Sometimes they come in like a sentence.
Right.
Sometimes they come in like one chef de keep at one event, just made like a real impression.
Right. Right.
So just giving permission that it doesn't have to be a
Right.
14-year mentorship.
Right. I'm thankful that I've had so many great mentors in my career. So many. Riding and getting inside a horse's mind and riding, training. A lot of it, I would have to say, Jimmy Williams for learning to think like a horse and, like I say, getting inside of a horse instead of just on top of a horse, how horses think and react and all of that. George Morris for Olympic, how do you get to the Olympics and all his mentorship. I was at his stable for 17 years and worked with him for longer after that Olympics and all of it. I think a lot of women, Susie Hutchison, who rode with Jimmy Williams. I just adored Susie and wanted to be like Susie growing up. She was a little older than me, and she worked for Jimmy. And then, that Hilda Gurney, I worked with Hilda for many years,
cool.
dressage, when I rode with Jimmy.
Yes.
And again, this woman that came from no money and got to the Olympics, and again, a great horsewoman and the dressage, but her story and her always positive and all of that with her. Kathy Kusner, I knew her a bit. She would be in California, and she was one that would, a little bit behind the scenes, come to a California Grand Prix when I was young. And come on, and you can go to Europe. You can do more again. And this famous, oh my God, legend, Kathy Kusner, encouraging me. And so those kind of women also in the sport. Astrid Winkler, Hans Winkler's one of his wives that found Starman and some great horses I had. And she was this wonderful gal that also very, very encouraging and strong, these sort of strong women to look up to.
I love that.
In my growing up and career and like you sort of, maybe some of them more like Astrid, more quiet mentor, whatever, along the way. So I'm thankful for many mentors in my life that at different times were huge. As you say, it might have been a short span of that relationship or whatever, but huge in a way in life and growing and all of that. And all of them, follow your dreams. Go for it. You can go for it. Why not? Even when I'm thinking, I don't know, and this little kid from California, and sure, go, Hilda, sure, go for it. Why not? Come ride on the dressage team. She actually wanted me to stop jumping a bit and really do dressage.
Really?
Go on but I stuck with the jumping.
Oh, I love that. So, okay. First of all, I love what you said about getting inside a horse rather than being on top of a horse. Yeah. That's like, I've never heard it said that way. And I think that's really, it's a very visceral way of like, it's a very, you can really like, to me, when you say that, I can feel that. Yes. So speaking of feel, we were just talking about feeling people, feeling horses. What is your definition? How would you define, if you were to write it in a dictionary of horsemanship, what would you define feel as? Because feel was this elusive thing.
Yes.
Growing up, and I got a chance to ride with some amazing people, but no one could ever, I think I kind of annoyed a lot of people because I'd be like, okay, but you talk about what is it? And people were like, well, it's, you got to feel the horse. And I said, but what do you mean by that? Right. And I've had some incredible riders sit across from me and I've been like, okay, what is feel?
Right.
What is connection? What is that? And everyone goes, oh, good question, Noelle, right? And so I've had to ask it so many times. And I've had to ask as many Olympians as I've had to ask cowboys or cowgirls to find a really simple definition. And I'm very curious what you think about it. So feel is the ability to observe with your mind, body, and soul what is present for the horse moment to moment. And then, depending on, I think, your experience, what are you going to do about that?
Yeah, I think that's an excellent definition. Absolutely. I think sometimes teaching, I'll say, feel. I'll say it's like it smells like a rose or it tastes like a baby aspirin. It's hard to, you can have that, sense of what that's feeling. And it changes, like it changes as you're riding or working with the horse. But I think your definition is great. I would like that written down.
Okay, we'll get it written down somewhere.
Yeah.
Because I do think that it's something that great, and like people say, like some people are born with feel.
Right.
And so those people are actually the hardest to explain what it is because
right.
they inherently have it.
Yes. It's
actually the people that have to work really hard to obtain it.
Yes.
That I think can then maybe describe it.
Right.
Because
right.
it's, if you know how to, if you're just naturally good at running, people say, well, how did you get so good at running?
Right.
People go, I don't know. I just like move my legs and move my arms and then I'm running fast, right?
Right.
But you talk a lot about feel.
Yeah.
You talk a lot about its importance. What do you think is available to people? Like I'm thinking of your own journey to mastery.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I think everyone in the horse world would agree that you are a master. You do master classes all over the world. You've done a master class for us. I think you have obtained that 47 Nations Cups, 5 Olympic Games, Olympic medals, Pan American Games. You won the Grand Prix of Aachen. Like you've done you have an incredible resume. What are some things, if whoever, of all the riders that are listening to this episode right now, if someone said, I've been told by my trainer that I need to improve my feel,
mm-hmm.
what do you think are universal elements of feel that a rider can do tomorrow to improve that side of their horsemanship?
I don't know. I've just done it so long. And I think the great riders have it. You have a sense of what the horse is thinking or feeling, or I think even to just go be in the barn and watch your horse in the stall, and I think some time in the barn with your horse or on the cross tie, not just with the groom, but to again, what are they feeling? And even teaching a new gal the other day, and what is your horse getting from this? What is your horse? Not only what are you telling the horse, what is your horse getting back from you? It's listening to the horse. It's watching the horse. It's, how they stand in the stall. They're resting the one hind or pointing a front foot. And again, they're telling you a little bit about their soundness or things like that.
Yeah.
Are they relaxed? What's the look in their eye? When you go to them, do they come to see you? Do they how just even a lot of that I think today the show world, people are showing. Yeah. Whether the kids take care of their horses or not, but to observe the horse, and even that touching the horse, that is also feeling. But there's a reading the horse, listening to the horse. That I think, a lot of us, we just get on, we do it because we do it. We're, the gal I was teaching, when you're up there, you're having a conversation with your horse. The whole time I'm riding, I'm having this conversation with the horse. And like years ago, there was a gal that worked for me, and I said, so what are you, and she was riding, and I said, so when you're riding around, what are you thinking? Well, I can tell you, I'm not thinking about my horse. Again, she didn't work for me very long.
Yeah.
But it was like, really? And even, you're not thinking about what you're having for dinner or whatever. When I'm 100% with a horse, that's, again, the feeling, is he tight? Is he relaxed? Why is he strong or running away? Is it fear? Is it just his nature? He's a thoroughbred type and he's a goer. Are you... How are you influencing the horse also? I mean, that's the next sort of step, but feeling, watching the horse, listening to the horse, even when you're riding, I don't mind them looking down at the horse a little bit. They don't have to stare at him all the time. And of course, not when you're galloping and jumping, but a sense of, what are his ears doing? What is his...
Yeah. Who are you in conversation with?
Totally. That's the feeling of listening. Is he relaxed? Is he happy with you? Or again, you do a leg yield or a shoulder in, and gosh, the horse gets rounder and he wants to stretch down, that's a good thing. That, reward him, give a little bit, listen to his reaction, not just do it because I said do it. Listening and feeling and really, I think getting inside. What is I don't know how many teachers do that, but so what is your horse getting from this, or what is your, or some people say, oh my man, she's riding or the horse is so much better. I said, well, she's riding better. The horse is telling you that he went better because you rode better.
Yeah.
What is the horse getting from it? Whatever it is you're doing, jumping or flatting or walking around,
What do you want your horses to get in those moments? Because I'm sorry, I want to preface this question by saying that when I spoke with Will and Tick, something that I thought was really cool, and this is going to lead into what I hear when you describe this, is that when you get on your horse, both Will and Tick said that you will never see Anne on her phone while she's on a horse. Right. And both men said that Anne, when she's with her horses, she's with her horses. She is not distracted. She is not thinking of something else. When she's with her horses and she gets in the saddle, she is like thinking and feeling into that horse moment to moment. And immediately I thought, okay, Anne is practicing presence.
Yes.
She is present with her horses, which is unfortunately something a lot of us have to practice now because the world pulls us into a million different directions.
Yes.
I think 40 years ago, the world was not so loud. Presence was something that was so inherently more natural.
Yes.
You had a telephone in the barn, and that was the only way that someone could get a hold of you.
Yes.
You didn't have this thing with you all the time and people pinging you and your pocket vibrating all the time. But something that both men really impressed upon was that you will never see Anne on her phone while riding.
Right.
As soon as she's walking, even when she's walking, she's in conversation. And I thought, well, to be in conversation, you have to be present. Yeah. To be present, you have to actually take away all of the distractions, turn your phone off. Don't maybe be talking to somebody else, really be in conversation.
Yeah.
That's what it made me think of when you were speaking and when both Tick and Will talked about you as a rider.
Yeah. And I think growing up, we didn't, as you say, didn't have all the distractions, but it's really that, and watching the top riders in the Grand Prix or the dressage, whatever, but they're really one with the horse. You become part of the horse practically. And that's the feeling. You're one with the animal. That's the fun. That's the joy. That's the, he's thinking, he's feeling, what you're, thinking going to the jump or the shoulder in or whatever it is. And again, you're both feeling the same. You watch the jump meter 60 and I mean, that connection, but they're really one. That's the feel, as you say, presence and 100% there. And I'm not thinking about something else. It's what's the job or even training. The horse isn't getting it as a young horse and you're asking him to do, again, leg yield, shoulder in, something, and they're not getting it and they're distracted or even they act out a little bit because they're resistant to the leg but because they're young and they've got to get stronger and it's like going to the gym and it's no, then I stay, okay, come on, you can do the shoulder in, inside leg, outside rein, sitting, I'm staying, and trying when I teach that. And again, this gal just the other day it's that focus. And as you say, presence as the horse, the young horse is, I don't really want to do this and being distracted and physically it's a little hard for him. I'm 100%, no, come on, you can do this. Deepening my seat, inside leg, connection, whatever. But it is just that. And not that he's doing it wrong or anything. I stay on, this is how you do it. This is how you do it. It's like teaching a horse piaffe or something. The horse has never done it, but the trainer knows what it feels like.
Yes.
The trainer is kind of giving it to the horse, even though the horse naturally could do it. He can do it in the paddock or whatever. Yeah. But the presence of the rider also just focused on that. And this is what it feels like. This is, you know what I mean? That's the feeling and in the moment and not, And again, no, I'm angry at the horse, or he's stupid, or he's not getting it. He's not getting it, but come on, you can, again, touch him with a spur, or whatever you need to do, or sit a little deeper. To help, for sure, to guide him, But the whole time it's saying, you can do this, but in the moment, and one with the horse. And then, of course, when they get it, showing like Eros, the thoroughbred that I had, 96 Olympics and Aachen and everything. This thoroughbred, and he was just amazing, and was to stay out of his way. He was so light and thoroughbred-like. Yeah. How can I just stay with him and not mess it up? Let him do what he could do, and even that is presence and you know what I mean, in the moment.
Actually, this is a beautiful point to transition into that. Okay, so there was this, and for a lot of our listeners, some of which are not from the world of show jumping, or not from even the hunter equitation side of things, what you talk about riding in the 96 Olympics with a thoroughbred, a horse that you needed to stay out of his way. This was a moment in time, talking about lines in the sand. Yeah. This was a moment in time. It was a very pivotal moment. We're talking about the era of the birth of the American seat, right? Yeah. We're talking about when the American system started to build a way of riding around that hotter, lighter, finer horse. Yeah. Okay. This is fun, because then we get to do a little history lesson. Okay. Could you describe and explain to all of those who are listening or watching, who have heard maybe the term the American seat, and they go, what is that? What is the American seat, and how is it born?
Yeah. It's the style seat. Bert Denemeth maybe was one of the real beginnings of it, with his Hungarian basic dressage and things. But here in the States, we grew up on thoroughbreds mostly. I mean, way even before me. Mm-hmm. In my lifetime, and Eros was probably the last great thoroughbred that jumped big jumps, or one of the last ones. On a light, hot horse with a lot of energy. I mean, a real breeding to be a racehorse, the thoroughbred. Unlike in Europe, they were way heavier than even today. Today, there's quite a crossover. Yeah. Most of the top horses have a lot of blood, thoroughbred. They're hot types. But then it was really, the Germans and the Dutch, they were on these sort of heavy, warm blood, slower everything. And so they had a deeper seat, a heavier, deeper seat and leg and whatever. But always the Americans had a lighter, more of a 2-point jumping position because of the kind of horses we rode. The French also a bit more like that.
And someone told me there was an Italian gentleman who actually wrote a book like 100 years ago or something about this 2-point style of riding. Yes. Which kind of blew my mind.
Yes. No, and they had hotter horses also, for sure. And they 2-point, absolutely. That was the Italians as well, the Italian position, 2-point. And that's the way it all started, especially because of the kind of horses that the Americans grew up on, real thoroughbred type. So a lighter seat. And yet today, as I say, in the big shows, these horses, they jump 1.60 m and they go like a racehorse. Sometimes, the breeding today is way more blood, even with the warm blood horses. So a lot of the riding is lighter. I mean, everybody's got a lighter seat, along with the Americans, like a McLean or a Beasy could over 1.60 m win the medal finals because they're of their style. Their heels are down and their reins are short and their eyes they're just always in a beautiful position, but the most effective position to help the horse, but be out of the horse's way, to be in balance, again, with the horse and balance with the horse. And yet again, the top riders from around the world now have much more of, I want to say, that position and that seat because of the breeding of the horse, the light horses and the sport, fast and you can't be doing dressage in between the jumps and make the time allowed,
Mm-hmm. Would you actually say that the horse should inform your position, not the other way around?
Not necessarily. I think I rode warm bloods also. It all depends. Yeah. Starman, who won the Grand Prix of Aachen and silver medal in Seoul at the Olympics. He was a warm blood. He was a Westphalian stallion,
Hmm.
but he was a little lighter. He wasn't heavy, but he certainly wasn't arrows. But from my riding and flat work and whatever, he went with a light seat. He was off the leg. I mean, he
Cool.
he had
So you like
energy.
mentored him to go in that way.
Yes, absolutely. To go to, to be able to ride him the way I like to ride, light seat and off the leg. And not that he was a thoroughbred, but he could gallop and jump and
What are sort of 2 or 3 exercises? Because I know you're a flat work, you're like queen flat of the flat. And now that I've heard that actually you got invited to go and ride on the dressage team, that makes perfect sense. What are 2 or 3 flat work exercises that you think really mentor, foster that lightness that you're looking for in your horse?
Well, first they do have to respect the leg. They have to be educated to the leg, whether it's, simple leg yielding, like I say, shoulder in, haunches in, all of those kinds of exercises, lateral movements, then on to half pass that they're bent in the direction they're going in. I mean, basic, I want to say the lateral movements that they're minding the seat and leg, accepting the hands, but getting the horse's hind legs moving. The lateral exercises get the horse's hind legs moving. That's again so they can sit down for the transitions. They can sit down to jump. They can use their hind legs to gallop and slow down, not fall on their forehand and be hanging on your reins. They've got to be able to sit down.
Yes.
So to me, I think that kind of work. The lateral exercises with dressage, but the horse is active and light and off the leg, that you use your leg in rhythm with the horse's hind feet. Also, not just a squeezing, but I feel like dribbling a basketball. There's a feeling how you use your leg, timing.
Yeah, called it a heartbeat in the horsemanship clinic that you recently did here in Wellington. You called it a heartbeat in your leg. Yes.
So that rhythm, it's like breathing or a heartbeat. There's we don't think about it, but that's the way it works.
Yeah.
So there's a rhythm, not a flat line. Some people just squeeze.
Yes.
And that's not the way the horses move their bodies. That's not the way their feet work. So ideally in rhythm, using your legs in rhythm with the hind legs, ideally inside leg when their inside hind leg is in support, timing. Timing. That, and then also, another sort of simple exercise that's kind of fun. And like if there are jumps in your arena, but you don't have to have jumps, you could just make a circle. But like a sitting in the canter, talking about the lightness of a horse, you can sit and make a circle around canter, a circle around a jump, then get up in your 2-point and gallop to another jump, say at the other end of the ring or halfway across the ring.
Yeah.
Then sit down back into the working canter and circle. Maybe
Cool.
if they're strong or whatever, you could circle twice. But up in your 2-point, again, sort of a straight line to another jump. Jimmy maybe used to call it like a polo pony exercise in a sense.
Yes.
Circle, and you change your position. You change the canter to a working canter or a collected canter. But then, 2-point, straight line across the ring to another jump or point to circle. I'm not talking about jumping them,
Beautiful.
but sit down. So again, that's what you do on a course also. Forward, come back. You're not jumping them, but the same. And also the horse will start to also listen to your weight influence as you change your position.
Yes.
Hopefully they learn to slow down and sit and change you shorten the canter or lift your hands, whatever you need, make the circle. And then again, 2-point, okay, let's go. And sometimes it's just letting them go. Sometimes, a lazier horse or a colder, touch them with a spur and come on, go.
Yeah.
And then sit down. So that's an easy, great exercise for a lot of the horse rideability, forward and backwards. You have a point to be able to ride to. And again, rider changing their position. Can I get in a 2-point? Can I get back in a full seat? That just happens.
It's making me think it's such a great balance exercise.
Yes.
Because the horse is you are both required to distribute your balance differently for the working canter versus the extended canter.
Yeah.
And as I dive deeper into talking about getting inside a horse's mind, getting inside a horse, the more I dive into the neuroscience, the way that horses' brains are put together, horses actually have a better than us ability to recognize pattern.
Yes.
So at some point, that pattern, they start to, they're neurologically wired to look for the pattern and to establish that pattern. It's how they've survived.
Yes.
So when you do that, actually at some point, the neuroscience will work in your favor because the horse will start to predict.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And that's when we see like some of the most magical things is when horses go, oh, I know the answer to that question.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. And so you say the pattern recognition and I would say repetition, whether good repetition or bad repetition, you can ride them badly and bad repetition teaches them bad things, or not things you don't want.
Yeah.
But yes, absolutely. I would say repetition, good repetition also for the human, but definitely for the horses, repetition, good repetition.
Well, and I would say a really important disclaimer to pattern recognition within horses, like from a cognitive point of view, is they don't know the difference between good and bad.
Yes.
Only we do.
Yes.
So you can establish a bad pattern just as quickly as you can establish a good pattern. And then the way that their brain works, you have to do it 100 times. I think the ratio is 100 to 1. Once you've established a poor pattern, you have to do it 100 times. Like you have to do it 100 times good to counterbalance 1 time bad.
Wow, that's amazing. But I believe it, and just experience.
So it shows that's why when we look at masters like yourself who are able to get the pattern so much quicker, it's because you have got the experience to then get to the answer quicker.
Yes,
more effectively. You're being clear with your aids. Okay, this was really cool. When I was reading about your horsemanship clinic, I loved how clear you were about application of the leg aid. And I want to dive into this because when you talked about squeezing, I pictured my entire junior equitation chapter of my life. I just squeezed my horses.
Oh, wow.
And I was not explained, and I rode with wonderful people. But again, sometimes teachers, it's not always on the trainer.
Yes.
Sometimes there isn't an understanding that there is a confusion for the student.
Yes.
And if the student doesn't clarify, okay, wait, am I doing this right?
Yes.
So application of aids. And it took me riding more in the Western side of things where it's very much pressure. There's a lot of emphasis on pressure and release.
Yes.
There's a lot more riding off the horse.
Yes.
Even just the way that the saddles are structured.
Yeah. It
took me riding in other disciplines for me to understand how ineffective my leg aid had been in the past.
Yes, yes, yes.
Can we please, for everyone listening, let's talk about the integrity of the leg aid.
Yeah, pressure and release, just what you said. And I was taught that early on. Absolutely. And again, that's that listening to the horse, listening to his reaction. When you close the leg, if they, you just want them to walk off or go forward, as soon as they give you the right answer, you lighten the aid. You say thank you. In anything you're doing with them, there's pressure and release. I'll say that when I'm teaching. When they're doing something I don't like, I have a bit more pressure, whether it's the leg or the seat or the rein, as they get round or they go forward, whatever they're answering my question. The only way they know they're doing something right is by releasing pressure. The way they know they're doing something wrong or that something I don't like is maintaining or sometimes increasing the pressure. So with the leg aid, as I say, ideally, it really should be when, like, the inside hind leg is in support, like doing, in the that's what posting trot. You post to the inside hind leg. Doing a shoulder in or a leg yield, you should be closing. That's the best time to influence the horse. When that inside hind leg is on the ground, you're saying step, like from left leg yield to the right, step to the right. Again, as they do, and if they don't do it, but I would repeat like the leg. Again, still not a flat line myself. I would tend to close the leg, release it, close the leg, release it. Sometimes stronger if they're not getting it. Yeah. Or they're going into just at the walk, a young horse might want to back up or something. you're asking to move sideways, I will continue more of a kick to get the horse to move rather than a squeeze. Very often a squeeze, a horse will go into that.
Yes.
When you squeeze, they're way stronger than us. They can push into their whole body into my one leg calf and not get a reaction. You want to get them to move. More of a squeeze, or then, as I say, a poke with the spur, a light with the stick, just to, oh, okay. And again, if their reaction is away from it, then I lighten it.
They go, oh, and that's the thing that we're looking for. Oh, that's what you wanted.
Totally. A girl with this young mare just 2 days ago and trying to do a turn on the forehand. Again, just move the hind feet around. Again, the one direction was good. It was easier for the mare, a 6-year-old, and we'd go the other way. And again, she stepped into the girl's leg. It was like, no, repeat. You gently keep kicking. Yeah. I'm not saying beat it up even. Keep doing until the horse's reaction. Exactly. And I said, we're just teaching her. I'm not upset. It's not a big deal. She just has to learn to step away from that. It's just an education. And again, not a frustration or, oh, this is so terrible. No, you're just teaching them to move off the leg. So the leg integrity of, and first, a squeeze. But again, there's always a rhythm. There's always a heartbeat. There's always a breathing. That's the feeling. Yes. That's getting inside the horse. You're not water skiing. It's not a flat line. It's more dribbling a basketball feeling. Then again, if they don't listen to the calf, then the spur a little bit. And as I say, sometimes the stick, and very often it's like, oh, that just what you said. Oh, that's what you meant. Yes. That's what you meant. And it's by the increase, I say I'm carrying on a conversation with my horse. It's by increasing and decreasing my aids. When I'm riding constantly, it's, that's not so good. But, like a little more off the leg. Move off the leg. That's not so good. Oh, wow, that was great. Well, they get this, and all the top riders, by increasing and decreasing the aids. That's how I'm having a conversation with the horse, and they can get it from that.
Beautiful. Whether we're deep in the Rocky Mountains or down in the heat of Florida, we trust YETI products on this journey of a lifetime. From the Roadie 48 cooler to the YETI mugs you see right here in the studio, YETI coolers and drinkware are built tough, smooth, and ready for anything the horse world has in store for us. That really changed my... It's so interesting to think how much that changed my perspective of aids and my own horsemanship. Was when I was able to understand that you're saying, this is what I want. This is what I want. Yes, that's what I want. That's what I wanted. Yes. And when I did an amazing Mark Rashid clinic in Colorado, and we actually had a conversation and an emphasis on how to make my gelding lighter to the aids. Yes. And he even actually offered an additional step, an interim step between applying a little bit more leg and then applying the stick, was applying the stick to your leg. He said, think of aids as energy. And he said, put more energy into your leg. And then if that doesn't work, then create more energy by tapping your leg with the stick. Wow. And then he said, wait for the response. Yes. Then when you get the response that you want, release. Yes. And then create again. Pattern recognition completely transformed my mindset around aids. Great. Right? Because it's, again, getting inside the horse. Yes. Are we creating, I think of all the moments in my own riding where I was creating such inconsistent patterns. Yeah. The horse is going, I don't understand. What is it that you want? Right. And that's where frustrated behavior comes from. Yes. People think my horse is being bad. No, your horse is frustrated. Yes. Because your horse is going, what the heck do you want, lady? Yes. It's and that's where we have to, again, it's I think it's hard, but sometimes I feel like many of us, if we are not being consistent, we have to take a step back. Yes. Can you do it at the walk? Yes. If you can't do it at the walk, don't do it at the trot. Yes. If you can't do it at the trot, don't do it at the canter. Don't run before you can walk. Yes. Literally. Totally. Yes. There's so much I've come to. The more great horsemen and horsewomen I have in the studio, the more respect I have for the fundamentals. Yes. The more I know, the more I realize it's really not that complicated. No, I agree. Right? But doesn't necessarily mean it's easy.
Right.
Just means that it's not complicated.
No, horses are not complicated. They are really very simple animals. And I think the human being makes things too complicated, the way people think or whatever. And very often, part of what you're talking about, the frustration and confusion, especially on the part of the horse, is then the rider actually changes the question. You're asking, move off this leg, move off this leg, move off the left leg. Then they're not doing it. Then the rider goes to pulling their head around or changing something instead of. I was taught, be like a dripping faucet on a rock. If that you don't answer the lay, I'm going to keep doing it along with repeat it. Finally, I promise the horse will give. That and the feeling that you can have all day. Even if you sort of have to get off in a half an hour or 45 minutes because you got to get to the horse show. The feeling I have is, buddy, I have all day. I'm going to keep asking you to step off my leg, whether it's a turn on the forehand or whatever, until you, but I don't change the question. A lot of times, like I say, then all of a sudden the rider with the front pulls the head around or then starts kicking with the other leg for some reason instead of, because they are simple, I think, just the repetition, and as a rider, okay, I have all day to do this, not this, oh my God, I got to do it, and they're not getting it. And the way the horse is, again, simple and slow it down, repeat it, and have the idea that you can do it all day. And again, listen for, even if they give a little bit, then lighten your aid.
Yes.
It's got to be, as you say, consistent like that. And even sometimes you lighten the aid, and all of a sudden the horse sort of also kind of gets it.
Yeah.
By releasing the pressure, by, oh, okay. So, and having the feeling that you're having a conversation with the horse, and you're not yelling and screaming or teaching some gymnast to do gymnastics with a whip and spurs, sticks and everything. No. It's a conversation with this other intelligent being.
You are trying to achieve symbiosis.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Connection is not control.
No.
Control is not connection. Okay, but before we dive into that, I want to ask something because you just said something that kind of blew my mind. I'm going to have an epiphany here on this podcast. You said that okay, this like really blew my mind. We rise in the trot to the engagement or to the inside hind leg. Did you say that?
No. You use the opposite.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because but I want you to explain this, because if I'm the only one, that's okay. But when I pick my rising trot or my correct rising trot, I look to the shoulder.
Yes.
I look to the outside shoulder.
Right.
But it's not about the shoulder.
No, it's the inside hind leg. Yes. It's the diagonal. Right.
And I didn't know that. I'm embarrassed to say, but I'm okay.
Right.
Like, I'm okay. This is what the point. This is like,
yes,
we're debunking and demystifying some of this stuff.
Right.
Okay, explain that to me.
So, because the horse's inside hind leg does most of the pushing, does both. But if you're on a straight line, they use both legs. But again, on a turn, on a shoulder in, on a half pass, the inside hind leg, from what I understand and have always felt, takes a little more of the push and the drive. And so you want to, if you're going to influence that, that's the time you close your leg, when that inside hind leg is in support. Not the outside shoulder, but the inside hind leg, to encourage them to use that leg. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You're sitting, so as their inside hind leg is coming up and underneath you, that's when you apply the leg to create that engagement, to create that strength.
Right.
And that's why you are sitting that, not rising in that moment.
Right. Or if you're in the sitting trot, you're in the sitting trot. Yeah. It's, again, shoulder in, leg yield, whatever. Yeah. It's the inside leg when they're inside, as if you were posting when you're sitting. That's the time that's the best time to influence them.
Cool. Now we do all of this again, and I think I love when we can draw the connections in the beautiful spider web that is horsemanship. So why do great riders like yourself have so much emphasis on the inside hind leg, why we do all these exercises and we're thinking about the inside hind leg, is because you talk about the importance of the strength and all the impulsion within a correctly balanced horse. All the horses that jump at the Grand Prix level, they jump at the Olympic level, the power comes from behind the horse.
Yes, right. Their engine is in their hind legs. That's what pushes them. That's what propels them forward.
So is that why someone like yourself, you're thinking constantly when you're doing lateral movements, you're thinking about what is the inside hind leg?
Yeah, well,
doing?
what are they both doing? But yeah, generally,
Because that's one way to strengthen it, right?
Right,
You're
right.
thinking about how to strengthen that side, and then you switch directions. How do you strengthen the inside hind leg on the left side versus the right side, right? These are some ways in which you're strengthening the movements of the hind end.
Yes, yes. And yet if you're doing haunches in, then my inside leg is at the girth and is a little active, outside leg back because you're putting the haunches in.
Yeah.
So it's always at different degrees of what you're doing.
Yeah.
And then all those lateral movements, shoulder in, haunches in, half pass. And a lot of show jumpers have dressage riders flat their horses, if they don't have time to do it, or their riders do dressage. Like going to the gym, it's gymnastics without jumping. It's doing yoga or Tai Chi, whatever.
Yeah.
That's what your basic dressage for jumping, to get them strong and athletic, like going to the gym, more rideable. Why are they more rideable? Because they're stronger from their being gymnastic. It's not just rideable, kicking them and holding them or whatever. It's like when we go to the gym and you get stronger. Some of my kids, I'll say, you really need to go to the gym and get strong. And as they get stronger physically off the horse, their balance and all of it's better on the horse. But so same with the horses, their basic dressage. Part of the rideability is that they're more athletic. They're just more athletic,
That makes me think that that's another thing that they can do. So in addition to being punctual and respectful and thoughtful and present, the other universal thing that doesn't require a ton of money, you don't need to be a millionaire or a billionaire in order to do this, but you can be physically as strong and fit and balanced as you can as a rider.
Absolutely.
If you want to improve in all the ways that you're capable of improving, like when we talk about accessibility of improvement.
Yes.
That is another thing.
Absolutely. And even in the late 70s, maybe early 80s, late 70s, I started reading sports psychology books, and there were only like 2 out: The Inner Game of Golf and
oh really,
or the Inner Game of Tennis. There were, nothing like this big business now. Then early 80s really started going to the gym before it was again what it is today. Even some of the gyms still had white powder, and the guys, it was different then. But to be a better. How can I be the best rider? How can I be the best partner to my horse? Was physically stronger, and more coordinated, better shape, all of that. Or even that, I say, be the horse. Be the horse. Go to the gym. Be the horse. As you get older and you have some injuries and things, same thing. You might get acupuncture, chiropractic, or something injected. My knee injected in the 90s. As I said, put yourself in the horse's shoes. That's the feeling part. What is the horse getting? So that going to the gym thing, I'll be a better partner to my horse. But you also, why does my horse need to get his stifle stronger, shoulder in, or galloping more, get him out twice a day? Because his performance will be better. He'll be sounder. He'll last longer. So many reasons for that. All
amazing.
of that. Yeah, be the horse.
When I say that control is not connection, and connection is not control, what does that statement mean to you?
It's about balance, and again, being with the horse, balance with the horse. When you said it before, what I picture is balancing a broom in the palm of your hand.
Ooh.
That's that you're not holding the broom. That's the balance kind of thing.
Ooh, I love that.
Can you do that? And that's, again, you're not controlling it, but you're with it and you're following it and you're part of it. That not control, but with the horse. And I think setting an intention of what you want to do, whether it's a beautiful hunt around and you're going to be smooth and not interfere, or okay, let's gallop and jump a big track, that you have an intention of what you want to do, and then do just enough, but don't, again, control, don't overdo it. That's another good one.
It makes me think of an old cowboy trick that they have you do when you're working on the ground with your horse. And diving into the world of groundwork has been so rewarding and extremely humbling. because I really didn't know a lot coming from from show jumping. I had always just hopped on my horse, you know?
Yes.
And there's so much to learn about feel, timing, connection, on the ground.
Yes.
It's unbelievable. Anyway, it makes me think of, so something that they have you do is you'll come in, and if you're holding the rope,
Mm-hmm.
they, you know, like a baby does when they're born, right? Like you're clenching your fists. A lot of the times you can look at someone and you can get a feel for it. I always wonder if it's the level of trust that they have in the circumstance. And cowboys will say, just let the rope balance in your hand. Like you have enough reaction time. And often we're working with like 12 or 20 foot long lines, right? They're like, hold it in your hand. Don't grab it.
Yes.
Because the horses, I've had a lot of amazing horsemen and horsewomen in horsemanship clinics say, if you're clenching at the rope, even if you have slack, the horse can feel that tension. Yes. Right? Yes. And that's what made me, I love when you talk about, you're not grabbing the broom. Yes. You're balancing the broom. Yeah. You're not grabbing the lead. Yes. You're and that, because if you grab, you can't feel.
Yes, totally. Absolutely.
Right?
Yep.
If you hold, if you touch, you can feel.
Yes.
And that, like, even the art of allowing a horse to fit. So there's a lot of letting the lead actually slip through your fingers a little bit.
Yes.
So the horse can find the soft place.
Yes.
And I was thinking, I remember having this epiphany of being like, wow, I thought of that in the reins.
Yes. Oh, for sure.
Grabbing.
Yes.
Versus, is it a conversation?
Yes.
Or is it like a control piece, right?
Yes, absolutely. Or even in dressage, they talk about when the horse is bending that they're filling out the outside rein. You know, they fill out the outside rein. Or I'll tell somebody, you know, keep a feel of the outside rein. I didn't say counter bend or pull their head to the outside, but again, and can you, as you said, can you follow that a bit? I think a good exercise also for people that, you know, you say they're grab or they like that, and sometimes their elbow can get like a crowbar.
Yes.
You know, when you're grab. So is to turn your hands over and hold the rein this way, and that right away your arm gets softer and follows. You know, a lot of people that get too stiff in their arms, and if you want to take a step further, just use 2 fingers to hold the rein that you're not even gripping so much.
Yeah.
To have that. What you're talking about. Yes. The feeling, the lightness,
They talk about there are old vaqueros that used to ride with silk reins.
Wow.
That's how light the horse had become. Right. But these are very experienced bridle horses, right?
Sure.
But they would ride with silk reins, or for a demonstration to show the effectiveness, they would ride with a shoestring.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like that. Like, how close can you get to the feeling of silk reins or a shoestring?
Yeah.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
You pioneered the automatic release. Is that right?
Well, actually, it was before me, the automatic release. And I have sort of kept it going a bit. But used to be, before me, everybody jumped with an automatic release and a straight line from the elbow to the horse's mouth, most of the photographs.
Yes. And
then sort of in my era of equitation, it sort of changed to this crest release, you know, up on the top of the mane. But I've always been a big fan of the automatic release because of the rider's body control and not using the neck for your balance.
Because that's not a direct line, right?
No, definitely not. If you have your hands on the crest. Now, for beginners and novice riders and learning to jump, for sure, use the neck. You grab the mane, put a neck strap on. You know, all for that. But the more advanced you become, you know, you really should be able to jump without any hands.
Which we have a video of you doing.
which we all, you know, not we all, but a lot of people, you know, growing up, you know, can you drop the reins and jump like that so that you have balance without the neck. Yes. But ideally, I like the automatic release because, again, you're following the mouth, or you can, in the air, you can start a turn or just landing. You know, you don't have to land on the neck and then pick yourself up and do something. You're, again, just more with the horse.
Yes.
All the time. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And the feeling that your arm really is a continuation of the rein, almost even on the flat, you know, I'll say it's like your fingers in the horse's mouth. The feeling of that your arm is really a continuation of the rein. It's not really separate.
Yes.
That's that. And even what you're talking about, the rope and the feeling, that idea.
Can you, for everyone who is listening who maybe doesn't know the definition of an automatic release, could you describe it?
Yeah, the automatic release. So we're talking about jumping over a fence, and so and to ideally that your arm follows the mouth. And again, if you took a photograph, and again, Joe Farges, Conrad Humboldt,
Yes.
those guys, some Europeans
Talking
say
about the golden age of show jumping.
Michael Matz, most of them, and most of my photographs, a straight line in the air from your elbow to the horse's mouth. Just again, balance, correct connection, whatever. But to teach that, very often I'll have you turn your hands over, like I just talked about, so that your fingers are up, and spread your hands out, and in front of the jump, on the way to the jump, on top of the jump, and after the jump, don't touch the neck. Keep your hands wide.
Cool.
And Eric Lamaze actually rode like that a bit, not his hands turned over, but he always had kind of wide hands and following,
always.
And even Ian, a little bit wide hands. And again, to be a great rider, you should be able to ride with wide hands or hands together, or you should be able to do it all. Yes. Hands up, hands down. What we call independent aids, that you can put your hands wherever you need to, or your legs wherever you need to. A lot of people get sort of stuck in one position.
Yes.
But depending on what the horse needs or the situation, like I say, can you spread your hands out to follow the mouth, or to give a horse confidence, like going to a spooky jump, spread your hands out a little bit to get them to be out in front of you. So that's what we call independent aids.
Yes.
So spread your hands out. Mm-hmm. I don't know how wide that is, but out to like where your elbows are, sort of. And in front of the jump,
like you're holding a tray.
Yeah, that's a good way to say it. That you in front of the jump, on top of the jump, and landing. Yeah. That you don't touch the neck. Cool. And that you have balance. You're staying on up there from your own balance. Your heels down, your legs are where they're supposed to be. If your leg flies back, you'll fall on the neck. If you have a little duck, which a lot of people, they want to get a little ahead or throw their body, your hands will go to the neck. And it's just finding that sweet spot that the horse just jumps up to you, that you're not ducking forward or falling back or laying on the neck. Yeah. That's the automatic release.
It also makes me think, it actually brings us full circle, also talking about the leg aid. So we're talking about, this is really cool, independent hand, I would call like your feel, your hands, that becoming independent. Okay, the leg. So for those, when I think of the leg aid, I also think of like the leg is also the main point of contact, physical contact that you have with the horse. Yeah. How do you differentiate to a rider the difference between squeezing a horse for an aid, to ask a question, to receive an answer, and squeezing the horse to stay in balance and to like hold yourself in place? Because that's, I often think of as probably one of the main points or moment or areas of confusion where a rider is using their leg and squeezing their leg on the horse to stay
on,
right? Versus getting independent enough in the saddle to be able to apply an aid, to apply a leg aid, to ask a question, to get an answer, and for that to become really clear and independent. Right. How would you describe to someone, especially if they're like a beginner even, what is the path to differentiating those two things?
Again, feeling and timing, but initially it's really about your balance. To me, staying on. You're not staying on because you're gripping to death. And a lot of horses, you make them nuts, by gripping. Yes. They should either numb or they're running away because you're gripping. Yes. For me, the balance, and like for jumping, even just walking and then trot, canter, 2-point. When you get up in your 2-point, you're not gripping to stay, or I don't think you should be. I would never have a sense that I'm gripping to stay up there. You're up there with your balance. You're over your stirrups. Your feet are underneath you. Again, if your leg slides back too much, your foot slides back, you fall on the neck. Yes. So that feeling of balance, being out of the saddle, but you can also do it, in a full seat. Some work with no stirrups, I think is great for also balance. And that I don't think people, again, I think they grip less. It's funny when you take the stirrups away, in a weird way, sometimes I think they grip less. Maybe not. But,
I wonder about that.
But sort of, a
too.
little bit no stirrups. Another thing for balance that a lot of people don't do much, bareback riding. I asked Billy Steinkraus years ago, and he had the most beautiful position. That Billy won the gold medal in Mexico and everything. He rode bareback. He fox hunted bareback. His trainer
didn't.
As a little kid, he fox hunted bareback, and that was balance in his beautiful position. So depending again on where you are and what your situation, but some bareback riding for balance and where you belong. But it's a feeling. It's more the balance. And I don't know, to me, again, the 2-point kind of gives you, it's a lightness.
Yes.
And again, then you're not, I don't think, there's just no way I would be gripping to stay on. It's more the down over your stirrups.
Yeah. Pushing
those heels down.
Yeah.
That's the lightness and the balance with the horse. You know what I mean?
I totally know what you mean. I laugh because I go into that seat in a Western saddle and all the cowboys laugh. It feels so natural to me to be in that place on a horse.
Right.
And there's literally video of me galloping down after moving cows. And I got up out of my seat in a Western saddle because it just feels like the most natural. Right. And I'm not saying that, and the cowboys, they'll sit in, they sit in the bucket, they sit in the saddle, but it's just the way it's like ingrained in my muscle memory. It's just get up and off the horse's back.
Right.
So I totally know what you mean.
Yeah. Or sometimes I'll even say on the, sit like a cowboy. Some people then also want to get out of the saddle too much. Sit, try to sit more like a cowboy.
I think you need to be able to do both.
Exactly. You should be able to do either, or I'll say even more sit like an Indian, because that would be no sat. How does, that you're just sitting there. But, and again, that's independent. Can I have a full seat? Can I have a light seat? Can I have a, 2-point different?
So cool. So to wrap up every episode, I ask riders the same 5 rapid fire questions. If you could read one book to the horse world, what would it be?
Read one book. Oh man, that's another good one. Actually, the first one that really came to mind, it's more of a thinking mind, dancing body. It's more of a. It's not a horse book though.
Cool.
It's not a.
Doesn't need to be. Sometimes the best suggestions are the ones that aren't horse books.
Right. Psychology, a little Chinese.
Thinking mind, dancing body.
I don't know the author.
No, that's okay. We'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah, that was really the first one that really came to mind.
And why? What about it?
Because it's about that lightness. How to again sort of control your mental part of it, and let things happen. I want to say, instead of being so controlling. And I don't know, in our world today, everybody's so controlling.
Yes. Well, we've never been able to control so many elements of our lives, right?
Right.
So it's I don't want to say indulgent, because it's not a fair term, but I would say that I don't think humans ever got the opportunity to control so much before. Right. I think if we could have, we would have, but we weren't able to.
Right.
But now you can watch your horse, watch your child on camera 24/7 if you want to.
Right.
You can literally watch the heartbeat of your newborn baby on your phone if you want to.
Right.
Like, there's so many ways in which you can control. And control, I think, is the antithesis. It's like the antidote to. A lot of us feel like control is the antidote to fear.
Yes.
Right.
But
there's an element of fear and unpredictability that none of us can do anything about.
No.
But we can pretend. We can try.
Yes. Right.
Right.
And instead, even the word that comes to mind, even thinking about all of it. And there's another book, but I can't. Anyway, would come to mind. But that's trust. And again, that's trusting the horse. That's trusting that things are going to work out. There is that, you do everything you can do, but there's also the element of trust. again, even as you work at all these things, then to have fun with it and be as good as you can be, but trust the horse and have fun with the horse and listen to the horse. And,
even do like, I've thought of people and even myself, like you can mentor trust in yourself.
Yes.
Like you could even have your, like, you can even mentor trust in your human relationships that will fall into your horse relationships.
Yes.
If you're someone who always thinks that something bad's going to happen, you cannot expect that not to bleed into your riding.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So like, heck, if you need to do a trust fall with your trainer before every lesson,
right?
Yeah. Like, do it.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. These are your questions,
okay.
not my questions. Okay. Who is the most iconic horse in history?
The most iconic. Oh, wow. That's another
hard one.
Yeah. Wow. Well, Secretariat, actually.
Yeah.
Sort of, I don't know. That's sort of, like I say, the first one that.
You're not the first to say that.
Just the size of his heart and what he did and how he ran. And
well, and he was like, I think we should never underestimate the impact that horses like Secretariat and Seabiscuit during a time in American history in which they became symbol of something so much more than I think horses have been symbols for humanity throughout history.
Yes.
And I think in modern history, when we look at horses like Secretariat, the symbolism that they represent to people who didn't have any connection to horses is something not to be to be diminished or not, to be underrepresented.
Yes. Yeah. On a much bigger level, as you say. I mean, that's why you say in history that kind of what he did and how he did it. And
most undervalued skill as a rider.
The mental,
mm-hmm.
the mental game, the mental. Yeah, I guess that would be my undervalued. Like I say, today there is all this sports psychology. Like I say, when I started, you didn't even talk about it. You didn't hardly, but it was Martina Navratilova and Chris Everett playing tennis, and they're talking about the Eastern Bloc and what was going on in the Eastern Bloc with the mental game, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Whereas today now is a big business and everybody's a mental coach and you got all this stuff. But I do believe that it's still a bit undervalued. Not only the riding, but like I'm talking about the getting inside the horse, the mental part of that. Mm-hmm. How important, there's so much actually to it, but how important that is.
Couldn't agree more. Who is the greatest horseman or horsewoman in history?
Oh my gosh, in history. Oh my God.
I promise the last one's much easier.
Actually, the first to come to mind was Buck Brannaman.
Ooh, I love that.
And I did something with him a little bit. I've met him a few times and whatever. But his again, the with the horses,
mm-hmm.
his whole, what he does. And again, the mental, the feeling,
mm-hmm.
I do. I love Buck's work, and I still refer to it often, or have somebody read about it. Again, from the horse's point of view, from that kind of stuff.
You know what would be so cool is if you and him if we did a clinic of the two of you together.
Yeah, that would be fun.
That'd be so cool.
Yeah. No, he's his and the way he can speak it and relate it, and just his whole way.
Yes,
I love Buck. Yeah.
I love that. And last question: mares, stallions, or geldings?
Wow. Yeah, that's another good one. They're all wonderful. They're all
What do you love of each? Because you've had success with all three.
With all three. Starman was a great stallion and great stallions and tried for me and all of that. But I'm not crazy about all stallions. It's not like I love stallions. I think some specific ones are great, mm-hmm. but not for just anybody. There are some that they really need proper handling and all of those things. So they're in a way more complicated. A good gelding. Eros was a gelding. I've had many, but was light and sensitive and this thoroughbred. So in a way, almost like a mare in the mm-hmm. sense, because he was so sensitive, mm-hmm. Intelligent and Australian bred thoroughbred that didn't want to run. But he was so light and intelligent and like a cat. Even the Europeans, because he was a thoroughbred, said, how does he jump like that? I get sort of, he got a loose rein and I'd cluck or I'd say, whoa, or, like no leg, because he was such a hot horse. He was like a bird or a cat,
Cool.
But because everything was just so light. And as I say, with him, it was always stay out of his way.
Yes.
Starman, you hold him and you leg him and you dig into him.
Be in him.
Yes, right.
Almost.
And he would fly and was amazing. But then Eros was just the opposite, this light, and to jump, sort of the thoroughbred, but like a feather over these jumps.
Wow. I feel like I'm in your experience as you describe that. I'm like, wow.
Yeah, no, just he was amazing that way. And yet a good mare, again, a great, and Roxana was a mare that I showed and was an alternate for the games. And she again, they'll try for you. I mean, there is, as I say, Eros was almost a little like that, but the try, the fight, again, the sensitivity, again, you have to read them, you have to know them. Some people don't want to buy mares today. Oh no, I don't want a mare because it's a mare. But on the other hand, when they fight for you, when they're on your team, when they're you guys are together, that fight, being the queen mare. Come on, I'm the queen mare, even working them and things.
Yeah.
And again, that's that little bit of a balance. They have to believe they're the queen mare, but we're on the same team.
Yes.
So that sensitivity is, I think, great for mares. So I'm not a one. Each horse is different, and I love all of them. They're all what each one brings is what's so cool about all of them.
And this has been such a pleasure. Thank you for coming on the podcast.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for having me. And I really enjoyed it. And I hope somebody gets something out of it.
Thank you, YETI, for supporting us on this journey of a lifetime as we traverse the heart of the horse world.